Welcome to What's Going On, the weekly podcast and videocast of First United Methodist Church in Yankton, South Dakota.
Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of What's Going On. I'm Pastor Katie here at First United Methodist in Yankton, South Dakota, and I'm glad you could join me for this episode. Today, I have a very special guest with me. This is Reverend Brandon Vetter, who is our District Superintendent for the Southeast District of the Dakotas Conference of the United Methodist Church. Could that be a longer title?
It could not.
Brandon, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hey, Katie. Always nice to hang out with you.
So I thought it would be good to have Brandon come on the podcast because this Sunday is our Charge Conference, and that is sort of our annual meeting for our church. And Brandon comes as the district superintendent, and he's going to run that meeting and get to know us a little bit. And I thought it would be nice for us to get to know him a little bit before he shows up at our church Sunday afternoon at 2:30. I'll say that probably a couple more times in the course of this video.
Good call.
And then don't forget that after church, after the church conference that day, you can stay and help decorate the church because we're going to be hitting Advent after that already somehow. So, Brandon, tell us a little bit, where did you grow up?
Yeah, sure. So I grew up in Bismarck, North Dakota, and I am a United Methodist lifer. So I grew up at First United Methodist Church in Bismarck. That's now Legacy. I ended up going to Dakota Wesleyan in Mitchell for college and was at Asbury Theological Seminary for master's work, for Master's of Divinity. So yeah, grew up in Bismarck. I graduated Bismarck High. The Bismarck High's mascot are the Demons. There's not many times a pastor gets the chant "Go Demons," so that's fun. That always got a great laugh in Bismarck.
Yeah.
So that's home.
And you are currently actually pursuing another degree right now too, right?
Oh yeah. With another colleague in the conference, I'm working on a doctorate of ministry in leading change out of Fuller Seminary with Todd Bolsinger. Some of you all might have read or know about the Canoeing the Mountains book. That's that guy. I also have to chuckle that the Doctor of Ministry degree, that when you say the initials is demon, like who came up with this acronym? Just to be funny, I guess.
To be honest, that's what reminded me of it. Was when
yep. I got it.
So you, lifelong Methodist. That's even more than I can say. And how did you experience a call into ministry? I don't even know.
So call to ministry, us, did Sunday school, youth group, all of that. When I was 15 at a youth rally at Dakota Wesleyan, you call it an evangelical speak. That was the first time I accepted Jesus as Lord, so that my faith became my own. It wasn't something my family did or just being a part of a church. And then I'd say my call to ministry came when I was 18. So I did Exploration 98. You can age me at that point. Exploration is that national event where high schoolers and college-age students go to explore to see if they're being called into ministry. So it was at that Saturday night worship service. Folks are going ahead to be anointed with oil to see if they should be becoming pastors. And I had an experience of the Holy Spirit telling me to go forward and do this. And it was so intense that my teenage brain processed it as, I need to go forward to be anointed with oil. If I don't, I'm going to throw up in this row of my friends. And that's how physically present that was. So it went forward, was anointed with oil. And then from that point forward, did internships, explored what it meant to be a pastor, what do pastors actually do on a daily basis, and then was getting feedback from folks, even unsolicited, that yes, this is probably the direction you should go. One quick example, there's three of us that gave our high school baccalaureate messages. And I gave that message on a Sunday. And then the next day in band class, I'm putting away my bass clarinet. And two girls who'd never really talked to me before said, "Hey, that was great. Have you ever thought about being a pastor?" And you kind of have those moments beyond your major call story to kind of add those confirmations. And okay, I guess I'm going to go down this route and let's see where God takes me.
So then did you go straight from college to seminary into ministry?
Yep. By the time I have a vivid memory of walking out of one of my last classes in graduate school and seminary and I am done. I am done with school because that was 25 years straight. And my my first appointment was the campus pastor at Dakota Wesleyan. And I remember walking out of my office one night, we just finished FCA, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and I felt this huge weight lifted of like, I don't have homework. I just have a job and I leave the job and get to go home. And it was a wonderful feeling.
So, and that's where I met you, I think, in your last year as campus pastor was my first year, or campus pastor slash fusion,
Yeah.
because you also planted a church in Mitchell.
Correct. So appointment two came along the same side. I was part of a team that launched Fusion Church in Mitchell. So yeah, for a couple of years, I was doing both. And then my last year in Mitchell, I was only at Fusion because it
Okay.
had grown to the place that it supported full-time clergy. That would have been 2014 to 2015.
Yeah,
I don't
that was
remember.
my first year in Mitchell.
Yeah, there you go. So that was
Yeah.
my, technically in the appointment record, that's my only year that says Fusion. Um, so if you don't know the history, you don't know like I was doing, a couple full-time jobs with interns
Yeah.
then.
And then from Mitchell, you went back to your home church.
Yeah, I would say yes and no. So yes, on paper it is the home church, but since I had been gone, they did a capital campaign. They moved the facility entirely to a different side of town. The congregation had grown a lot. There were still some people there that remembered changing my diapers in the nursery,
Oh
but
gosh.
right. But that was by and large not the bulk of the congregation anymore. Those folks are still there, absolutely lovely, but it
Mhm.
had definitely changed and evolved. So yes, home church, and it had gone through significant changes since the time I've been gone. And I served 9 years at
Yeah.
Legacy as the senior pastor before now coming as the district superintendent of the Southeast District of the Dakotas Conference of the United Methodist Church.
So,
This is what the name tag looks like.
yes, yeah, there's all of it. Yeah.
Get it? Can use a small font.
So yeah, so my I think first real memories of getting to know you was at briefly in our time in Mitchell, getting to do a few
Mhm.
things kind of together back and forth. Um, and then when I came onto the Board of Ordained Ministry, there you were. And we got to serve on that up until till this year, this past
Mhm.
year. And so Brandon was well, for a while we just both served on it and we were in the
Yeah.
theology group together. And then Brandon has a history of creating new things and he helped create that preaching group, right?
Yep. Hopefully it was a good idea.
So I mean,
Yeah.
we still are using it. So
Great.
and then
But
Brandon
yeah,
became you went through kind of a few different roles in that.
yeah, on the board of Ordained Ministry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just a member. And then at some point, I don't think I was secretary. I think I was registrar for a very short time and then vice chair and then chair.
Yeah.
And
So
I served
well,
12 years,
yeah,
which is the maximum amount you can serve on the board of Ordained Ministry. So
officially.
officially, yes. If we're following the letter of the law, yes.
Which in the Dakotas, like many of our small churches, we are a small conference. And so sometimes those things get stretched a little bit if someone
Yep.
is exceptional or filling a role that we really need. But
Correct.
it was Brandon who was the chair when I was vice chair and who I have followed into that role. And so Brandon has been a good mentor in that way for me as I learned that job as well.
Mhm.
Um, so Brandon,
And
what's the call? Oh, go ahead.
I'll say, and you're doing a fantastic job as chair. One of my favorite cards I got in the mail was from your prayer team at the church in Yankton, who this was a couple years ago, were praying for me to stay healthy so you didn't have to be the chair. I think I still have it. I've got a folder of stuff of things that give you encouragement on the hard days, and I'm pretty sure that card is still in there.
Whenever you're feeling poorly, pour that one. You can pull
Yeah,
that
it
one.
was it was lovely. It made my day when I opened that up.
When I was vice chair, I didn't, well, vice chair is kind of one of the best roles on the board because
Mhm.
it's not a whole lot
Agreed.
that you're responsible for. I'm changing that, by the way. I keep giving her jobs to the new vice chair, but
Good
um,
changes.
every time I would see Brandon, I would be like, I hope you're feeling well. Like,
Yep.
because it meant if he got sick, then I would have to do work, and I didn't want to. So, yeah, the prayer team we have here is pretty incredible. This year, they actually sent a prayer card along with me for the before the meeting for everybody, and
That's wonderful.
they're just an incredible group of really dedicated people who are prayer warriors. So, but
That's cool.
I'm glad they actually sent that.
Oh, it's awesome.
Um, so I'm a little curious about the call into being a district superintendent, and maybe some of my people that watch this aren't really clear on what a
Mhm.
district superintendent is and what they do. And so, do you want to kind of talk about like how how that came about that you've kind of entered into this new role, and then what that new role is?
Yeah. So, district superintendents are extensions of the bishop's office. So we work together and pray through and discern appointments for the next year because we as clergy are appointed on a yearly cycle. In the discipline, it lists a whole lot of things that we do, but the primary thing that we are charged with are chief missional strategists of our district. So on top of including discerning appointments, it's finding new places for new ministry where there might be United Methodist deserts, especially after disaffiliations. Um, and one of the vows we take in ordination includes order. It's like word,
Mhm.
sacrament, order is service in there, Katie? Word,
Sure.
sacrament, it's
I
close.
have it somewhere.
Anyway, this job is 100% order. It is high administration. It's making sure pastors have what they need in their appointments. If people take renewal leave or need to be gone for medical, I work with staff parish folks to make sure they've got pulpit supply. Some churches, depending on the size, don't need it. They've got enough people. Others that are smaller, I can connect them with folks that I become aware of in the district to do that. This season, I answer all kinds of questions about paperwork. I just have some HR questions that came in today, and I will say thanks for asking and pass them to the HR person in the conference because that is
Right.
definitely not my wheelhouse. It's been fun I've been able to preach some. That's been an interesting transition to not prepare something every week, but every now and then get asked to preach. And it's fun to keep those muscles fresh because I do enjoy preaching. I guess how I got called into it, much as we do in many things in United Methodist Church, the bishop called and wanted to appoint me to this role. And I've been very resistant to want to do this role for a long time, even though people had been saying, you'd probably do a good job at it. So that actually goes back to even discerning my call when I was 18. You got to
Yeah,
you listen to those voices and test whether or not that's from God or something else.
right.
So yeah, we entered, my wife and I entered a week of discernment to see, because we'd been at Legacy for 9 years. So we could discernment to see whether or not this was where God was calling us next. And after weighing everything, we thought, yes, I think God is calling us to this next step to move from Bismarck to Sioux Falls. And yeah, it's some people ask, how's it going? And I said it's same and different as being as a pastor because it is the same. I've got a plan for the day, but
Yeah.
something may come up and it goes completely left and I got to do
Mhm.
something else. That's very much what a local pastor does. I think the different thing is I don't have any colleagues. I have a home office, or I don't have any colleagues present. Like
Right.
I got the other district superintendents and the conference staff, but we're spread all over the place. So my current office mates of two cats and a dog, they're fine, but they don't, not very chatty and can't really bounce things off of them to get feedback. So, how many months I'm into this? Almost 6, and yeah, it's been some wonderful challenges. It's stretched me in good ways. Yeah, I'm starting to feel like I'm getting my feet under me. I probably won't until I actually complete a good year to figure out what I didn't know.
I understand that. I think that's true though. Anytime we go into like a new church or a new
Oh
thing,
yeah,
like you have to just experience everything at least once before you start to get a handle on it. Um,
yep.
do you think it's been, I mean, I would imagine one of the harder pieces of it is that sort of disconnect from the local congregation, and kind of what they're doing. As a pastor, even as a pastor moving to a larger church, it was harder for me because
Mhm.
staff, like I became one step in some ways removed from certain
Yep.
ministries because in a tiny a pastor does everything. But in a
Yep.
larger church, you're managing staff. Well, I would imagine with a district superintendent, you're now even one step removed further from kind of the local ministry.
Yep.
Has that been hard, um, or is it having that bird's eye view kind of a different sort of blessing, maybe?
Yeah, I think at this point, I answered the second one. It is the bird's eye view has been a blessing to see all the different ways God's been moving around the district. Like it's been cool to hear all the various ministries and ways God's been growing this program or that thing this church has tried. So, at this point, I very much enjoyed. But you're absolutely correct that it's another step back. I'm glad I came from Legacy where it was multi-staff. And now you take the other step, like, okay, kind of watch what everybody's doing. And yeah, so far it hasn't driven me crazy.
Pastors, the administrative side is like their least favorite thing. And so probably being a district superintendent wouldn't be wouldn't be the right fit for them if that's
Right? If you don't have a high spiritual gift administration, then the DS role is probably not for you.
yeah. Well, not an easy role for sure, because DSs also deal with if there's conflict or things
Mhm.
like that. The DS is, a person that can come in and help to make sense,
Yep,
sort things and listen. So
correct. I know Rebecca previously here also took around a values workshop to places, and we'll be doing it in a couple more come January. And those are good things too to help churches discern kind of who they are and the next steps to take.
yes, we did a values workshop in 2022.
Nice.
I was not at it because I got COVID
Of course.
and then had a baby. So they did the
Yep.
values workshop and I wasn't there for 2 months. So I'm sure it
That's
went
awesome.
well.
Do you remember the
Actually,
values they discerned?
I know that children and youth were a part of it. I remember that. Um, we kind of came back to some of that conversation about a year ago. Our church went through a process. I recruited some people and we really looked at visioning for the future. And so we created a new vision and mission statement for our church to really nail down who are we going to be, because I think there was just so much anxiety with all the
Mhm.
change that was happening within the denomination and in our country. They wanted a sense, I think people were waiting for a sense of where are we going to land and who are we going to be. And so some of that conversation happened again in that process when we
Mhm.
landed with our new vision and mission statements, which we're a year into them, and the vision statement for me personally has really resonated, and there's been so much that I've been able to do out of that vision that aligns with it. It's nice to have like this is where we're headed, this is what we want, because that makes things easier as a leader to
Right.
go, okay, well we can make decisions according to that now, and so it's been really good.
That's great. Yeah, it is a very natural, like level 2 workshop. Once you know your values, now it's time to do the mission and vision.
Yeah,
Perfect.
exactly. Yep. Uh, and then to do it so far and see what's stuck, from
Yes.
the values workshop, instead of having it all be necessarily fresh, but you sit with it for a while and then kind of see what really stuck, like of the things that we talked about, of the things that we care about, what matters to us the most. So,
Yeah. Was it just aspirational in that moment, or is it actually being lived out by the body?
right. And so
Yep.
for us, it was around hope, healing, and belonging. Um,
Cool.
that we felt like that was where we're being called to. So I think that's good.
That is very good.
So what can we expect? I keep hitting on my wires. What can we expect on Sunday at Charge Conference with you? As I mean, every DS has a little way of handling things.
Yeah.
What can we expect?
Yeah. Assuming you have no other extra business that is particular to Yankton, it'll be about 45 minutes to an hour. We'll start with a devotional, and then we go into the business of the annual conference, which, depending on if these reports are ready or not, we'll look at your nominations report, approving your
That'll be
leaders
ready.
for
Yep.
cool, approving your leaders for next year. If you did any kind of membership report or audit, we'll also approve that. Some clergy, there you go, baptisms, funerals,
Yep.
new members, folks that have transferred out. We'll look at your clergy compensation form for 2025. That is the big piece for church conferences.
Hmm.
That piece must be approved by the full body. Anytime any change happens, I have to be involved. We have to announce a church conference, all related to our rules and our polity.
Right.
If there's a budget, look at a budget, does not have to be approved. We'll
So
hear any
close.
updates from the trustees. So close. If the
So close.
trustees have any notes about what's been done over the last year, they can share those.
Okay.
I've got just some good practices around like finances and insurance and making sure safe sanctuary is followed. Nothing that's actionable, but just to make sure those things are being checked by your leadership team. And then, Katie, we hear from you. Just highlights from your pastor's report. Share what you're looking forward to in the next year, where you think God has taken us. I'll bring you some updates from the annual conference. You can ask me any questions you want to, and that's it.
Any
Keep it.
questions? I feel like I'm
Yeah. I do
Hmm.
have to. I have to set a time limit on it. And I think I essentially say at the end, all right, you've got the district superintendent here. Are there any
Yeah,
questions you have for me?
I think that's wonderful. Well, I'm really looking forward to, I mean, it's a strange thing to say that I'm looking forward to a meeting because, most of the time I'm one of those people that unless the meeting is going to be productive, I don't want to have it. But I do enjoy the opportunity to kind of lift up and celebrate what God has been doing and where we believe God is taking us. And I think Charge Conference is one of those times that we get to do that. And so I do actually look forward forward to these things. Um,
I
yeah.
do too. I feel the same way. I agree too. There's business that has to be done, but my most exciting part is, all right, where has God moved with you in the last year, and where is God taking you next?
Yeah. So you definitely are not going to want to miss this Sunday, 2:30 here at the church. We're also going to be joined by Gayville and some of their members because they also need to do a charge conference. Every
Mhm.
church has to do one. And so they're going to come on over with us. And so let's be hospitable as well. Brandon, is there any sort of favorite things that you have that if the church people were going to try to, I don't know, I feel like, you know, bribe is the wrong word, but get on your good side.
Oh, I'm a pretty easy bribe. I don't think I've met a dessert I don't like. I've seen chocolate chip cookie bars have been good. I love like mousse pie, lemon meringue I've
Mm.
encountered at church conferences. Yeah, there are very few desserts that I do not like. So, like I said, easy bribe. You got desserts. I'm good to go.
All right. Well, maybe we can figure. There's a lady here, and I can't promise that she'll do it. But there's a lady in our church that makes the best lemon bars I've ever had in my life. And we had a dessert auction last year, and I think I paid like $60 for a plate of her lemon bars, and I would do it again because they were so good.
No regrets.
Zero,
No.
zero regrets. But anyway, let me think of what else is happening really fast. Since this is our podcast called What's Going On. So part of what I do is share what's going on.
Mhm.
So we have again decorating after Charge Conference on the 24th. Don't forget on December 1st, following worship service, we're doing a new thing called a Taste of Christmas Heritage, where people are invited to bring foods and decorations or things that are from their heritage that or traditions that their family does and to share with the congregation as a way for fellowship and get to know each other because we have some really cool people who have some really cool stuff. I did put a limit on it though that they weren't allowed to bring lutefisk if they were Norwegian
Not a
descent.
big Budapest fan, huh?
Not a big fan of the smell of lutefisk in particular, and I didn't want the whole church. I'm like, if you love that, go to a Lutheran church. Let them sort you out. Like you can bring lefse, you can bring kringle, you can bring so many other things from the Norwegian heritage. There's not a lot of Norwegians down here, though. This is Czech country and
Oh, that's
Yankton.
good to know.
This is what I learned. But I'm really looking forward to it. It's a new event. It actually came out of our soul scans that we've been doing, that program, Disciples Developing Disciples. This was someone had a goal around community and wanting to
Yep.
encourage the community of the church to gather. And so this is what came from that. So very cool, very exciting. And then we also have some caroling with our care casseroles coming up in December. Lots of things happening, but those are the main things that are kind of immediately on the docket. And so thanks again, Brandon, for joining me today.
You are
And
welcome, Katie.
we look forward to seeing you in person on Sunday.
I'll be there. See you
All right.
Sunday.
Until next time, God bless. Thank you for joining us for this episode of What's Going On, a video and audio podcast of First United Methodist Church in Yankton, South Dakota. We'd love to have you join us for worship on Sundays at 10 a.m., either in person or via our live stream, which can be found at our website, www.firstumcyankton.org, or by searching First UMC Yankton on YouTube.